Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn, and today I am going to make a couple of cards with this gorgeous BetterPress plate. It's from the Kaleidoscope Arches collection that recently released, and I'm starting off here with a panel of watercolor cardstock. This is actually the Spellbinders watercolor cardstock, and it's a dream to work with. I really love it. What I'm sprinkling onto this panel is some shimmer powder. Shimmer powders, if you've never worked with them before, are a dry pigment that has a lot of mica mixed in there, and each bottle has a different sort of effect that it creates when you spritz it, because for one, the water will activate that pigment. The pigment is water soluble. Then secondly, there are some shimmer powders that actually, they don't have just the one color of pigment, they have different colors in them. So when you spritz them, it's hard to tell on screen right now, but the purple one I use, for example, it actually has multiple different colors of pigment in there. So when you spritz it and all of that color comes to life, you actually get a really neat effect because there's multiple different bursts of colors. I like to let my panels dry naturally. So I let this sit for a spell, and you can kind of already see all of the shine. What I'm looking for is to see whether the pigment powder or the shimmer powder has completely dissolved, and it did look like there were some areas where I think I was a little bit too heavy-handed. There was in particular like one big mound of the purple, and so I used one of those kind of bulb things that you can use to kind of push air out to this thing right here to sort of spread out that powder, but even still I wasn't able to really disperse it very well. So all I've done is just gone in with some extra water to activate some of that powder that hadn't yet been activated and was still kind of dry. Because I know that if a hand swiped across that, it would have just wiped that powder right off. But once you spray water over the pigment powder, it does have a binding agent, and so it will hold all of the mica that's giving all that lovely shine. It's going to hold that firm to your card panel so that it doesn't rub off. It's really fun to play with shimmer powders. I really love it because you really can never duplicate a panel, and so each panel has a very unique and very organic feel to it. I've got my BetterPress here, and what I've done is I've inked the top half with a color that I feel like would match my pigment powder pretty well. Although, I'll be honest, I didn't actually test this before before I actually tried it out, which might have been a good idea to do. But then on the lower half, again, I've inked that up with another color that I felt might match pretty well with the blue shimmer powder that I have. I have such limited colors in both of these things that really, if these two, or I should say 4 colors didn't really work out, I don't think that there was much I could do to change that because it's not like I have a lot of options. But I did use a brayer in the center because I wanted to create a little bit of an ombre and a mix between the pink at the top and the blue at the bottom to get, well, to kind of replicate the purple that I have on my panel. And here's how that looks. So I was really surprised that the color turned out to be a really, really good match. It may have been a little bit better if the pink was a little bit darker. That way it actually deepens that top portion and is a little bit more visible. But I'll show my card close up at the end. You'll see how it turned out. But the bottom half, I think, turned out really well because the blue is darker than my shimmer powder. So it holds up. You can still see the design through all of that color. And I just think it's a fun way to add just like another layer of interest, another, bit of texture. And so here, so that you can kind of see how that ombre effect looks on just plain, like a regular cotton card, I've pressed it by itself, just that nice ombre, which I'm really liking doing the ombre effect. And when I did this, in a previous video, I mentioned that I wanted to do it and try going from one color to the next. It worked out pretty okay. The thing is that when it gets to that middle section, if you don't want to cross-contaminate your colors, the brayer did an okay job, but I used my hard brayer. I think next time I would use my soft brayer and see if that does a better job of mixing the colors and actually transferring more ink on there. Because I think with the hard brayer, it probably pulled more ink off of the plate than it actually put onto the plate. Something to play with for next time. The Now with the Kaleidoscope Arch Sentiment set, I am going to stamp out thank you. And it's really great because you have these die cuts that are really lovely. They have this really nice border design. And all I did was I just used the exact same shimmer sprays that I used before, just on some scrap cardstock. And I die cut the arch die with the design of that sort of semicircle and that lovely kind of ornate border. It's so pretty, but I end up actually covering up most of that because I didn't realize just how big this sentiment is. So I'm gonna start to assemble this card by putting my watercolor panel down first, and you'll see in a moment when I just use a plain old nested circle die to die cut out the circle, and the sentiment, thanks so much. It will fit into a circular shape, but it's a pretty tight fit. I did use the Spellbinders circle nested die, so if you have that die set, you'll be able to find a circle that matches this pretty well. But then when I layer it on top of this panel, really the only thing you can see is that really nice decorative edge. I was kind of hoping that a little bit, you could see a little bit more of that border of the shimmer powder, but in the end, I actually prefer that it turned out this way because then you actually can't tell that this is two pieces put together, because you can't see the seam in the center, even all the way to the edge, because there's natural breaks in that sort of scallopy border design. So it actually, as it turned out, it actually worked out better in the sense of this looking a little bit more like one piece or one circle. So that actually, I guess, turned out okay in the end, but it just felt like a shame to cover up all of that all of that pretty shimmer powder. And I'm going to keep the card really, really simple. I am just going to put this circle kind of in the center, and that's going to be it. I thought about adding maybe some black Nuvo drops, just to pick up a little bit more of the black in the sentiment, but I put some on there just to see how they might look, but I didn't really want to take away from the really lovely watercolor background, and on top of that, this really lovely, very detailed design from the BetterPress plate. So I ended up just leaving it at that. The second panel I also want to keep really simple because BetterPress plates like these, I feel like they're so hard to cover up because they are so, so pretty. So I much prefer to keep the design of everything else going along with it. minimal so that the design can really kind of shine and more of it is visible. So what I've done is I think I might already need to re-ink this color because swiping it across this cardstock panel, it feels a little bit dry already. And I know I've used a lot, but and Spellbinders did say better pressing does take a lot of ink, does use a lot more ink than just stamping would normally. So we got fair warning about this, but I didn't realize that it would go so fast. So and it may just be that it transfers because the thing is that I've always gotten really perfect transfers of the BetterPress design. So maybe because they do say that those BetterPress plates are specially coded to take the ink, and they were designed in conjunction with each other so that they work well together. So I wonder if it's not so much that the ink is dry, just that I'm using it in a way that it's not optimized for. So I'm not too sure on that, but I wanted a blue that would be like the perfect match for my sentiment, and I wanted that to be on the background and to white heat emboss over top of it. So that's why I did this. I guess I could have found because I think oh, I didn't even think about it at the time. Actually, I know that one of the cardstock colors is a perfect match with this ink color. So if you want to save yourself the trouble of doing what I did, where I swiped out the ink just to color some cardstock, check out the Spellbinders solid color cardstock. I think pretty sure there's a blue that is actually of the same name as the ink. Maybe it was Cosmic Sky, something like that. But yeah, it turned out well either way, and I really love using the BetterPress. I definitely had to do this second card just so that you can really see in full that entire design, and doing the ombre is a lot of fun. I just will try my soft brayer next time to see if I can get a better blend. There wasn't too much of an overlap on this one. I think if I did it again, I would go for like a more a wider section of the purple in the center. But I do love how it turned out. At least it had a perfect impression through the center there. And then my first card that I made, I really love. It just feels very artsy, even though I'm not very artistic. And that's one of the beauties of using the shimmer powders. But you see how the dark blue here, it's darker than my shimmer powder, so you can still see that the design of that, where at the top it's too close of a match, so it really gets lost in the shimmer powder a lot more up at the top there. But I still love how it turned out, and this collection is really fabulous. If you're curious to check out any of the products in more detail, I'll leave links to everything in the description box below. And thank you again for joining me on this one. Until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.